Okay, the first step to setting up EveryChat, especially if you plan on sending texts, is to go through the campaign compliance and the brand registration step. This is going to be critical if you plan on sending text through EveryChat, because as of, at this point, it would have been several years ago, phone carriers now require every business to be registered through their A2P program. So what EveryChat does is it gives you a walkthrough or a wizard to get all of that stuff set up and to hopefully avoid any complications with being rejected or just delays in general, because I know delays are incredibly common when it comes to the A2P registration part. In EveryChat, or my personal goal, is to make sure that you avoid all of that. So what you're going to find, if we jump over to the campaign and brand registration step by going to SMS compliance, is that you will find templates through several parts of this process where applicable. So as we scroll down here, your first step is going to be registering your brand. And this is pretty self-explanatory. This is going to be the legal business information about your business. So if we click on register your brand here, this is going to take us into the brand registration kind of form, if we want to put it that way. So it's going to be your legal business name, your display name that customers know you by. So the difference would be like EveryChat LLC versus most of my customers just know me by EveryChat. So EveryChat LLC would go here, EveryChat would just go here. This is going to be your legal business address. So what appears on your business registration documents, the type of company that you are, the type of business registration number that you have, the business registration number itself, and then the type of industry that you're in. Most companies using EveryChat are going to be in professional services, but if you have something else or you work in a different industry, you have a lot of options there. And then your website right here. Preferably you put it in as with the protocol, so HTTPS coming in before your domain. So if you kind of just look up here in the URL, it would be something like that if you have a secure website, or it would be HTTP without the S if you don't have a secure website. And then you'll just specify the regions of operation. So after this step, it's just going to ask you for information about yourself. And then finally, the type of company you are. There's really nothing that you're going to have to do on that step. It's just whether you're a private or a public company. Most companies, of course, are private in this case, going through EveryChat. So you won't have to really change anything on that step unless you're, of course, a massive company. So with that being said, that's the brand registration in a nutshell. There's not much else that you need to do on this screen. Just make sure that you get all of your information on that page accurate, because if it isn't, like maybe the EIN number wasn't, or your business registration number wasn't correct, or maybe your business address wasn't correct, they will reject your brand and you'll have to restart that process and wait a little bit. Fortunately, phone carriers have gotten a lot quicker about the turnaround on these steps. Oftentimes the brand registration could be same day, even within a few minutes. Sometimes it does take a few days if maybe you just created your company and you just filed your business registration documents. It can sometimes take a little bit longer because they have to do some more digging to find you. But otherwise, this step is pretty quick. The next step here, once this comes back as successful, and I can jump over here to an account that has gone through this process. Once it says registered, you will then be ready to come down here to the campaign registration step. And this is what trips a lot of people up. Because this is where you have to talk about how people opt in, the type of text that you're going to be sending. There's a lot more details that are a little bit more nuanced in this, and this is where a lot of people get rejected, and then it takes them weeks or months to get through this process. As I mentioned earlier, my goal is to make this process as easy as possible for you. So this is where you're going to find that template. So as you scroll down here, as I mentioned, the campaign is basically just telling phone carriers what types of text you're going to be sending and generally how people will be opting in to your business. So in EveryChat, we have two types of campaigns, and we've kind of determined that these are really the only two types of campaigns that apply to most companies. So we brought the list down to only these two to reduce your complexity of trying to figure out, okay, what do I pick here? Because there's a lot of different stuff to think about. So in this example, I registered low volume. So you can see that it was successfully verified and approved by phone carriers by this little green registered button, or this green registered badge. Now, let me explain the difference between these two campaigns, because this is important. So if you do not plan on sending many texts through the system, and you can use this description to help you kind of determine which one's right for you. But if you do not plan on sending many texts through the system, and generally we look at this as a per month basis. So if you plan on sending less than 3,000 texts a month, low volume will probably work for you. However, there is one critical caveat to the low volume campaign. The biggest limitation to low volume is the throughput that they give EveryChat. So if you register a low volume campaign, you will not have enough throughput, which if I explain what that means, it's basically how many texts you can send per second. And with low volume, they limit you to 1 text per second. So that means we have to disable the campaign feature, the text campaigns feature within the product. So you cannot send bulk texts through EveryChat if you go with the low volume campaign. So if this is simply going to be a one-on-one texting scenario where you are just doing customer service texts, and you don't plan on doing any kind of upsells or service reminders or whatever it is, anything that you're sending out to a lot of customers in a very, very short period of time, low volume will be okay for you from that standpoint. But if you plan on using texting campaigns at all, or you're going to be sending more than 3,000 texts a month, you're going to need to register the mixed campaign. Now, the registration process for either one is going to be exactly the same. So whether you're registering the low volume or the mixed, it's going to ask you the exact same questions and you're going to fill it out the exact same way. So let me show you exactly what this looks like. So if let's just say I want to register the mixed campaign, I can click on configure and you're going to find this wizard. Inside the wizard, you're going to see a few different input fields. You're going to see describing your campaign usage. So just describing the types of text and how you plan on using texting in the business. Describe how people opt in. This is going to be about, well, as the name suggests, how people opt in to texting in your business. And then if we scroll down a little bit further, these are going to be examples of the types of text that you're going to be sending. So, you writing out each message as an example. So you might send service reminders, you might send upsells, you would put those in as examples. Now, they don't have to cover each and every type of text that you're going to send. It's just a general example of the types of messages that you're going to potentially use in the business. So if it doesn't include every aspect of how you use texting, that's fine. Just include 2 or 3, and that's going to be plenty for getting through this process. Now, what you do see here is that many of these fields are already filled out. And what these are templates that if they fit your business, you just need to modify them slightly and then you are good to submit the campaign. These examples have been used on over 100 companies at a very, very high success rate where we are not getting rejected all that frequently or not getting rejected because of the messages themselves. If companies get rejected because of these messages, it's because they forgot to put one of 2 things on their website. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Because there are 2 things that you need on your website before you submit these campaigns. Otherwise, you will get rejected every single time. So first, and you're going to see these on the screen too. You're going to see both of these on the screen right here before submitting your campaign. You will also find a resource that we're going to talk about here in just a second. You will also find the same information in this yellow box. However, this yellow box is going to tell you exactly where to put this information after you put it on your website. So first off, what you're going to see here is under before submitting your campaign, you need to make sure that you have an accessible privacy policy on your website. So this is going to be something down in the footer of your website where Twilio can go find it. However, Twilio isn't necessarily going to go look at your website to find this information. Instead, what they're going to have you do is they're going to have you put your privacy policy URL in the describe how people opt in to receive texts. So you're going to find that at the very bottom of this input field, and you're going to replace this with your privacy policy link, okay? The next thing that you need to do is you need to add a checkbox or a disclosure statement to your website forms. So, and once you do that, you're going to provide like a contact page or a quote page so that Twilio can go look at that checkbox or that disclosure statement and make sure that it's on your website. So in this scenario, they are actually going to your website to confirm this information is there. So you need to replace this with your contact or quote page URL so that they can go check it out. Now, that is what we highlighted right here. This is the checkbox text that I highly recommend that most companies use. Of course, if you're in a different industry, Like most of the time, EveryChat is working with companies in the home service industry, lawn care, landscaping, house cleaning, window cleaning, plumbing, those types of companies. So if you're in a different industry, you might want to tweak this just a bit. It might work perfect for you and you might not need to change anything, but just kind of keep that in mind with how some of these templates are laid out. But in this case, if this template works for you, you would just copy this and you're going to go put it on your website forms. And it might look something like this. So just a checkbox at the bottom of your form that says something along these lines, and then it will have your business name there in the we'll call it the disclosure statement. And that's what you saw right here. So you would replace your company name and put it in this location. Now, once you have both of those things, now you are ready to submit your campaign. So as long as you've read through, which I highly recommend reading through this template, not just clicking submit blindly, just because this takes several days to verify. Sometimes it takes a week. So it's better to spend the time up front to make sure that everything looks good. And that way you don't get registered and then you have to wait another 6 days. And then you have to wait another 6 days because you just keep getting rejected because something wasn't right on the website or something didn't match up in this template with how your business operates. This template will work for most companies, but it's better to just be safe than sorry. But as long as you get this done correctly, and then you have your privacy policy and this disclosure statement or checkbox, you're going to be good to go. And then once you're happy with how everything looks here, you'll just click submit registration, and this will go into a pending state. And then if it's rejected or registered, you will see the status, replace this unregistered section. So if it was good, you'll see registered. If it wasn't good, it'll switch to a red and it will say rejected or something along those lines. That's the idea. So and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, but this is going to be the process if you want to register your business through EveryChat. This is going to be by far and away the easiest method to registering your business. However, if you are coming into EveryChat with your own Twilio account, please reach out to me or somebody on the team, and we will help you get that set up. We can talk you through that process because EveryChat does support external Twilio accounts. We'll talk about benefits to that in a future video. But the main thing there is, if you're using a software product with your own Twilio account, you can just bring that over to EveryChat. You don't need 2 Twilio accounts, but it also gives you the ability to save some money on texting fees and registration fees. So there are kind of 2 positives to that. The only negative is that it's just more difficult to set up within the product, but it is absolutely doable, and I can help you do so. So anyway, that will basically sum this up. I suppose once all of this stuff is registered, you will need to assign that campaign to your phone numbers. So as you have phone numbers in the product, you'll just go over here to profile settings and you will go to linked phone numbers. And then I don't have a linked phone number in this account, but what I'll do is I'll pause this video. I'm going to just quickly demonstrate how you assign that so I don't forget a step in this video. Okay, real fast. So to assign your phone number to your campaign, all you'll do is you'll just click on the settings cog over here. You will click assigned campaign type, and then you will just pick that registered campaign, click update phone numbers, and then you are done with that. So if you have multiple phone numbers, you will just repeat that process for each phone number. Other than that, there's nothing more that you need to do. And after your brand is registered, after your campaign is registered, and after your phone numbers are connected to that campaign using the process that I just demonstrated, you are good to go and you are ready to start texting inside the product.